Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck and I get to travel state of Jefferson, all 7 counties, and I meet the most fascinating people. Tune in today and meet 2 women who have been in the same place, just not at the same time. Dora Bland, where was it that you were in Medford?
I was, I was going to business college there.
And let's meet your friend Cleo. Cleo, where were you in Medford?
I went to the business college that she went to, but I went there in '44 and she was there in '37.
So your footprints were on the same. What is this business college? What can you tell me about it?
But it was run by a blind person, and we both tried to remember his name, and I haven't been able to remember his name.
Maybe somebody out there can tell us. Okay.
Yes, I'd hope so, yes. But it was a wonderful business college, a lot of fun and a lot of work.
Where was it?
It was what do you remember where it was located?
No,
it was in
I
Medford.
don't remember. It was in Medford.
It wasn't too far from the Medford Hotel, I don't believe, was it?
I think it
Pretty
wasn't.
close.
Well, where did you girls, you're not from Medford, obviously. Where are you from? Cleo?
I'm from Cave Junction. I was born and raised in Cave Junction.
Well, rural?
Yes, just 2 miles south.
Down towards the California border?
Yes.
Was it Cave Junction in those
No,
days when you were born?
No, it was Cave City.
Cave City. And did you have a hospital and Mom went to?
No.
Tell me.
I was born in a little log house that we lived in at the time. My folks' nice home burned years before.
And did
it was called the Fisher Ranch, and my dad bought it, and he'd never seen it, and he came down, and it had the large barn that the wagons would go through. It was the old road went through there, and the wagons went through the middle of the barn and changed horses there and things before my dad had it.
A livery stable? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, it was before my dad was there.
And the family, it was known as what?
The Fisher Farm, or ranch, Fisher Ranch.
Did it have accommodations for overnight? Do you know?
No, not that I know of. But that house burned when my folks had only been there a short time. Well, they had 3 little boys when the house burned. But I was born in there. Some of my brothers were born in Portland mostly because that's where my mother came from.
And Dora, your story, you're from rural Oregon too. What was the community you're born into?
I was born on a little 40-acre ranch between Merlin and Hugo.
Called?
On Quartz Creek.
Quartz Creek. I have learned on a previous interview that Dora, sometimes the road would be thick with dirt.
Oh, dust.
Dust, how thick?
Well, to me, as I remember as a child, it was at least that thick.
And
that might be exaggerating because my feet were kind of small.
Was your highway paved?
No, not when I was born. I don't know the year the highway was paved through there.
But you're both talking early Southern Oregon, unsophisticated grounds, and the roads. If you're telling me that the trail went through that barn, that must go back to gold country, huh?
I imagine. My folks bought the place in 1915.
Wow. See that?
So,
and what brought them to Oregon?
my uncle, Dryden, lived on the Riverbanks farm, where they used to have the big mint farm. And he found that this place was available, and my dad told him that we'd come down and they would come down and buy it, and they did.
Sight unseen?
Right.
And
And
so
they came in a wagon, and my oldest brother was a little baby, and came over by Crater Lake. It took a long time to they got snowed in there for a little while. Took a long time to get down there.
from where?
From about Redmond country.
Oh my goodness, this is pioneer stuff. And Dora, where did your family come from?
Oh, they came from my grandmother came from Michigan, and great-grandfather came from New York, and one from Kentucky, another
And
great-grandfather.
what brought them all here?
Up pioneering, came out on the wagon train.
Do you know when?
Oh gosh, 1854, the Grandpa Beckwith came out. I didn't know. That was when my Grandpa Bland came out. This is so interesting. They came out and settled on Bland Mountain, donation land claim.
They got to
And
name
they
it?
came out on the wagon train. I wish I could remember the name of the wagon train, but it was in the 1850s or before. And they came out with the Riddle family.
Riddle from up
Yes.
Douglas County?
Yes. And they got a donation land claim on Bland Mountain. It's named after my grandfather, great-grandfather. And he is buried there with one of his sons, Sylvester, which is a pioneer cemetery. And I'm in the process of, I have a headstone refurbished, and now and the lot's fenced.
And this is in Douglas County?
That is up out of Canyonville on Days Creek.
This is broadening. We have Jackson County and Douglas County and Josephine County, where the family, now you have some connections with, well, these are whom?
My mother and dad and my oldest brother.
She's a beautiful woman and dressed so smartly. How in the world would you iron that?
No. She was born and raised in Portland. Her folks came from Germany directly to Portland, and they lived there.
And that's where they met and married?
Yes, yes.
And decided to head out to Southern Oregon and...
Well, my mother and dad, that was my grandparents, and my mother and dad met up there and moved. She came with him down here.
My grandmother, Hauser, the family came when she walked from Michigan, and she walked across the isthmus and she was real little. They walked across the isthmus before the Panama Canal, you see.
Before the Panama Canal, so they went by one boat
Yeah.
through the Caribbean, got off, walk, got on another boat.
And she went to the Catholic Academy in Jacksonville School.
I didn't know there was a Catholic academy there. You're teaching me history. That's what it's all about. You both have brought such fascinating things. Now, I don't know. You got to tell me who I'm looking at here.
Well, this is my mother and my dad and my 4 brothers before I was born.
Oh, so the baby is a boy.
Yes, they're
So
all
we have
boys.
to wait a little while to see
Yes.
you. And you.
This was the lady that we lived with in the Ladies Community Club
You see,
in
that's
Medford.
another connection we have.
Yes,
Okay.
There was a girl's...
that's where we lived
That's where-
when we went to college.
That's where I lived. And then she also lived there later.
Okay, let's talk about this college. How many students were there? And
Do you remember? I don't remember how many students because I think I went to night school.
Oh, you did?
I think I did.
I think there was probably 9 or 10 in the class.
Not more than that.
I
and
went
you
to,
were
no
taught
more.
what?
Pardon me?
What were you taught?
Oh, business
Accounting?
college. It was all type, I don't know, typing.
Accounting
yeah,
and
accounting,
typing
bookkeeping.
and shorthand.
Now, you've used your bookkeeping skills.
At the Delro Garage.
And have you used your skills?
I worked at the First National Bank for a year, and then I got married.
Aha, the beautiful First National Bank there. But Dora, now you have several names.
Yes, I do have.
Folks, it was because of Better Light Television that I learned that Doris had someone named for her. I happen to know someone whose mother was Doris, named for this Doris.
Oh.
And I was able to bring them together. Talk about history.
Oh.
It was a high point for us both.
High point, I should say.
We had lunch with Doris and her daughter and
Yes.
your friend.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Lavina Millard.
Oh, Lavina?
Lavina.
She had a married name too, right?
Lavina Millard.
Millard.
Millard or Millard.
And you think that I don't have fun doing this show? I love it. You've brought so many pictures, but let's start with you as a little girl going to school where?
At Rockydale School. I went all through the 8th grade, 8 grades in Rockydale School. And that picture.
This is the picture of the students at Rockydale.
Mm-hmm.
And how about your teacher?
That teacher was Marjorie Varner, the hat lady of Grants Pass. And she's a wonderful teacher.
Marjorie was a married woman at this time. Mm-hmm. She had been teaching in Williams. Now, Marge told me the story that Williams said, if you marry, you won't be able to teach anymore. But Rockydale didn't have that rule.
No.
Now, how she got back and forth, I'll never know.
I don't remember either. I know she came to my house. I had rheumatic fever, and I was bedfast for 6 months. And she came and brought me lessons and kept me up with the class. All that time,
wow.
she came and brought. She was wonderful. She just helped so much.
She's one of the Jones girls, and there are 4 Jones girls and 1 boy. And I've been able to interview many of them, and I'd love to do more. This is who?
My mother.
You want to tell us her name?
Alma Bertha Kruger Doney.
Hey, that's like you with lots of names.
Yeah.
Well, Margaret is my legal name.
But I call you Dora or
that's
Babe.
That's what I like. That's what my father wanted me called, was Dora.
But her name's Doris.
Then Mother wouldn't call me Dora. My father wanted to call me Dora. Mother had my name in the register as Margaret Lenora after my grandmother's. But then Dad kept on calling me Dora.
Sounds like a little infighting there.
Just a little bit. I was in the middle.
You were in the middle. I don't know how to. Oh yeah. I thought this picture, although it's of your aunt, it reminds me of something your school teacher might have worn.
Yes.
Marge Varner, the hat
so
woman.
many hats.
And I had hoped and dreamed of buying one of them when they sold them, just to have for days like this that I could pull it out and say, this is a genuine, authentic Marge Varner hat.
Yes, it would have been
The
great.
lady. Talking about your school, this actually came from your school.
Yes.
This prayer has a few problems.
It does. Yes, indeed.
The proofreader hadn't been to your school. Tell us about it.
That's right. It was so much fun to read that after so many years.
Mm-hmm.
Medford Business College. Now, was this right after Depression, or do you know how much you paid to go to school there? Or?
I don't remember.
I
No,
don't
it wasn't.
either.
When was the Depression?
All
this was
the 30s, when times were so tough. And they had,
well, this was in the early 30s. Well, 37, the date of the calendar.
because you've brought this. This was also part of the Depression, but where does it come from? Who does,
I don't
That's my brother's, was from my brother's uniform. I had 2 brothers that were in the 3 Cs.
okay, and 3C means what?
Conservation
Corps. What, a Civilian Conservation
Yeah,
Corps.
that's what it was.
Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. Civilian
And
conservation.
the idea of this Conservation Corps was to put young men to work instead of on the street.
Mm-hmm.
I am told that they made like $35 a month
I think my brothers got to send 25 home.
and
And
keep
probably keep-
5 for
I think
themselves
so,
to
I
buy
think so.
candy.
They were in Riddle.
Were they?
Yes, where the CC camp they were
Okay,
in.
tell me the names of your brothers.
The ones that were in the 3 Cs were Ralph. This one, this is my oldest brother, Walter. He didn't get to go in the service because he had a bad heart. but he has uniform there because he belonged to the State National Guard in Oregon State, stayed at home. And the other one is my brother Don. He went to Germany, fought in the Battle of the Bulge, and was in Germany for, I think, 3 years.
And came home.
And came home safe.
Oh. Yeah. Now.
And that's Ralph, and this is Don, the one that was in Germany. And Ralph went into the service, and he spent the time in Greenland.
Now, you know, the joy of having someone come and share the treasures that they've kept for how many years? My goodness. Folks, if you've
I
never...
have one of those at home.
You have? Mm-hmm. Look, she didn't spend all of her stamps. Do you suppose those are for shoes or for meat or for...
Well, we had them for meat and sugar and all kinds of things.
Only the
And
old timers would know. This
And that was your mother's?
Yeah, that one was mine, I think, yes. And the other one was my husband's.
Oh,
He didn't use all of his.
My husband's has childhood's signature on his because he was just a little kid then.
Oh.
But this, anytime you wanted to buy something, you had to take this book.
Yes.
If you were lucky enough for them to have sugar in the store.
Right.
You've mentioned a story about conscientious objectors. And this was news to me. If you'd be so kind as fill in what did conscientious objectors do in World War II?
Well, they would not go to the service because they didn't believe in killing, but they were brave young men. They were the smoke jumpers, the early smoke jumpers out in Cave Junction.
You're talking locally here?
No, these boys came from Georgia and Florida and places back east. The ones that were in the picture were not local boys.
Right, but they were smoke jumpers here.
Yes, they worked here. They worked out of the Forest Service station in Cave Junction.
Because I followed the story of a conscientious objector who went to war as a medic. Mm-hmm. And you can see a wonderful documentary about Desmond Doss. Different ways people serve their country.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What is it all about?
That was when we went out and watched for airplanes. There was a little building it was on Holland Loop Road toward the Oregon Caves. And we went there and sat there and watched for planes, airplanes.
Is that Army Air Corps?
During the war.
Army Air Forces.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, Dora, you just mentioned that you know a little history that I didn't know about World War II and what happened off the Pacific Ocean.
Well, there was a bombing. There was submarines, small submarine, Japanese submarines. And there was I hope this is authentic. I lived there. I was living close there. I was in Arcata, California. And a submarine sunk, the Amidio, which was an oil tanker. And there is a story about what happened in the Crescent City historical book.
Oh, I hope to get them on here and tell the rest of the story. Because one person told me about someone a Japanese who has been honored in Crescent City, and his children are honored as parade because he was there, broke through. I'm interested in all these stories.
Well, there's a wonderful book, and it's called Silent Siege, and it covered the Pacific coast, of how close the Japanese, the Aleutian Islands, their occupation there too.
You served the U.S. government during the war. In what capacity?
I was, well, I was medical administrative, and which was keeping statistics. And I served over 18 months in London and Paris, street fighting in Paris, landed in London when the big buzz bombs started.
Oh my goodness.
Went through those, and then the rockets. And I was fortunate, well, then I came home and flew with military air transport as a flight traffic clerk, which I have over 700 hours in the air flying.
Now that's more than a stewardess, that's more than an assistant. You were running things, right?
No, no, I wouldn't say so.
It takes women to do jobs. Now, during the war, what were you doing?
I was in school.
In school, did you learn? I mean, was war on everybody's mind?
Yes, oh yes. We had blackouts. We put curtains over the windows just in case. But they did, some of the Japanese planes did come in over the part of Oregon that was near the coast. But they didn't get in this far, I hope. No.
Well,
No.
they did set fires, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They bombed a little along the coast.
The wonderful story is that they didn't understand Oregon rain. And so they'd set off incendiaries which would fizzle. I love it.
Yeah.
There is so much here about your family and this. Right now I'd like to turn just to Dora. The scrapbook itself is a history.
I love it.
Isn't it just genuine simulated leather, right?
I don't know what it is.
I mean, it was made absolutely beautifully. There she is. We said, which one do you think she is? And we, aha, there's Dora. And you're, at that time, connected with Oregon Caves. Is that right?
I was with the Cavemen organization, working at Delro Garage.
Okay, and it was very, very popular here to be a cave princess, or this was for all of Southern Oregon and Northern California.
It was a Redwood Empire.
Which included all the state of Jefferson, which almost became its own state.
I was reading about that just recently.
And the only reason that we didn't become independent in the 49th state was that war broke out that week. Oh, there she is, folks. By the fire of all the old bones.
So we were objecting facetiously to the strike that they were having at the Congress Hotel. It isn't there anymore in Portland. So they built a fire and
oh, the cave women were there, the cavemen. Now, you have history. We could talk all day. And folks, it's been my privilege to go and sit in her home and just like I did with Deb Potts, and interview them for dozens of hours, which just has filled my life with joy. And I want to encourage younger people to find someone and interview them. Tell us what it was like when. You have a picture in here of the Gladiola Parade. Do you remember the Gladiola Parade?
Oh, yes.
Tell me, gladiolas.
oh yes.
Tell me about Gladiola Parade. Did you come to town?
Well, I lived in Grants Pass, but so many people did. It was wonderful, beautiful
Yes.
floats and flowers
Yeah.
everywhere.
The bastions.
Always had the cavemen in the middle somewhere.
Picking up the pretty young girl.
Yes, they had a cage they put the kids in.
Did you, the kids, did you ever get carried over somebody's shoulder? Now, Dora did.
You did, I'm sure.
We won, first prize, I think, at the Americana Parade. That was in Portland, 1938. And it was so much fun. The boys would grab the girls, and and then sometimes the women would grab the men, and they'd be very reluctant to come along with us, dressed in our furs.
And the guys would pick up women and put them on their shoulder. And of course, that's out of fashion now. Cavemen are out of fashion, but oh, it was fun.
It was
Yes.
wonderful.
And it was designed to promote the Oregon Caves.
And
Did you say that you knew about the race, the foot race that came from San Francisco?
I have an article, it's in there or somewhere, about the Indian that was, I think he won was it a marathon? I wish I knew.
Indeed, it was a marathon, running from San Francisco to Grants Pass.
Yes.
And only Indians were allowed to be in the race.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trained. In fact, I just learned that some people who were promoters would, and they wagered a little on the side, and that's why there was, I thought, no way. No, this is kind of like betting on the horses or betting on the dog. But it was huge wagers on who would win the race. And you got to see it?
I saw one of the racers, yes. Uh-huh.
Oh my.
Then I saw the big tall person in there too, yes.
I would just love to keep you for another show because we've got stacks of things to talk about. You two ladies, how did you meet?
That was so exciting to me. There was no one left for me to talk to that I knew, could possibly think of that remembered the things that I remembered, like dancing at the Jackson Hot Springs Chateau. We went, where were we? Where did we meet? At the Chinese restaurant.
I think it was, yes.
And she just came in a little bit late. We were sitting there, began to talk about where we were from and what we did and that sort of thing. Come to find out, she knew all about the Jackson Hot Springs beautiful dining area and the dance floor with the dance up the steps and slide down the slide and and the swimming.
This was the Red Hat.
At the Red Hat
meeting
Society.
Oh, that's where you met.
That's where
we met.
Oh, I've got to keep you for another show. You've got so many stories. This is wonderful. I want to talk to you about Jackson Hot Springs. And folks, tune in next week and we will talk about who we were, when, and where we got to meet. Dora, thank you so much for introducing me to your friend Cleo. I'm Bernie Martin Beck, and I get to talk to fascinating people who've walked these walks, been on the dirt trails that now we just take for granted to be all paved. I'm Bernie Martin Beck saying thanks so much for tuning in.